In Richard Wright's novel, Native Son, the main character is Bigger Thomas, a young man from the Black Belt in Chicago during the 1930s. Bigger Thomas has ambition but is held back by white society. One night he kills Mary Dalton, the daughter of a rich white man who hired him as a driver. He tries to cover up the murder, leading him on a path of self-discovery, a path filled with fear, anger, more murder, a path which leads to his death. Bigger Thomas, Conflicts and Resolutions. Bigger felt that his mother was ashamed of him, that he was good for nothing. Bigger, sometimes I wonder why I birthed you. Mrs. Thomas feels as though Bigger isn't going to amount to anything, and she begins to tell him, "You'll regret how you living someday." Therefore, Bigger develops a sense of hatred toward his mother and almost the world. The final conflict between the two is that Mrs. Thomas is turning to God to help get through the news of her son and the horrible crime he committed. Bigger, on the other hand, feels as if no one can help him now, not even God. Mrs. Thomas begins telling Bigger, "Get on your knees and tell God everything. Ask him to guide you." Bigger's response to this, "Forget me, Ma." They just can't seem to find any agreement on anything, not even God. In the end, Bigger resolves these conflicts by telling his mother just what she wants to hear. He does this so she can find peace and stability to survive this world that Bigger has changed. Bigger gives in and exclaims, "I'll pray, Ma." Now, Mrs. Thomas can feel at ease and finally believe that her son will do something right for a change. Before Mrs. Thomas leaves, she says, "We leaving you now with God, Bigger." Bigger was afraid to feel because feeling would cause him to sense remorse and to reflect upon what he had done. When Reverend Hammond entered the room, Bigger was at once on guard against him. He shut his heart and tried to stifle all feeling in him. He feared that the preacher would make him feel remorseful. Bigger should be able to feel remorse necessary to heal himself from the inside. He was only a victim or product of his circumstance. The black experience in America in the 1930s was not a pleasant one. Segregation and discrimination were the topics on the popular agenda. Blacks were held and treated like second-class citizens. Bigger was desperately trying to overcome the stereotypes of black people, and in the process, he destroyed any hope within himself of achieving that goal. Lack of education and understanding fueled a conflict between Mary and Bigger. Bigger was not educated in the sense that Mary was, and he did not understand many of the words she was using when asking questions. He did not know what a capitalist was. Now, what did that mean? Was she on his side? What side was he on? In this time period, blacks did not receive what could be considered a good education. Basically, black people were trained to read and write, and then possibly received some instruction in a trade. In another conflict, Bigger was unable to develop trust or experience trust with any white person. The guarded feeling of freedom he had while listening to her was tangled with the hard fact that she was white and rich, a part of the world of people who told him what he could and could not do. Bigger was not able to trust Mary, because she was part of the world that held him back. She was part of the world that told him where his place was. Later in the story, Bigger meets Max. Max understands Bigger and why he had killed. At this time, it's too late for Bigger Thomas. The biggest conflict in Native Son lies within Bigger Thomas. He knew that the moment he allowed what his life meant to enter fully into his consciousness, he would either kill himself or someone else. So he denied himself and acted tough. After Bigger kills Mary, the feelings he experiences are new to him. He looked around the room, seeing it for the first time. He was slipping more and more into a dreamlike world that was very different from his own. How would he act in this world? The thing to do was to act just like others acted, live like they lived, and while they were not looking, do what you wanted. He acted before he killed, and after. At the end of the story, he doesn't know how to feel. When tired of mulling over his feelings, he would say to himself that it was he who was wrong, that he was no good. If he could have really made himself believe that, it would have been a solution. But he could not convince himself. His feelings clamored for an answer his mind could not give. The story ends with Bigger and Max saying goodbye to each other. Why end the story this way? If the story would have ended with Bigger strapped in a chair, the reader might be overwhelmed with emotion to understand the meaning of the action. It is meant so the reader can see the effects of black society in the United States. Bigger Thomas, Conflicts and Resolutions.